Hi, my name is Brenda Ness. I am the author of Secrets Revealed at the Time of the End. I wrote this book for people who are as curious as I was about the 7 years of tribulation that is coming at the end of this era. This is information that is not generally taught at churches or Bible studies, but is clearly described in the pages of the Bible. With guidance from the Holy Spirit, I have studied end-time prophecies which contain particular amounts of time from the Bible, took those amounts of time literally, and plugged them into the Hebrew calendar to line up perfectly between Hebrew holy days. I also used the Christian calendar as my guide. I took Bible verses and wrote a book around them instead of writing a book and then plugging Bible verses into it. There is a very important difference. This video is to summarize the information that I have put in my book. I guarantee you there is a lot of stuff you have never ever heard before revealed in the pages of God's Word. I am just bringing them to your attention. For example, have you ever seriously thought about the effects that a true 360-day calendar would have on the world? God explains very clearly in Genesis 1:14. He says, "Let there be lights in the sky to separate the day from the night. They will be signs and will mark religious festivals, days, and years," from God's Word. And in Genesis 2:1, "And so the whole universe was completed." God is saying that He was done with creation, including how He laid out the universe. He never once says that we would need to switch to a different calendar. I explain how this theory came about and why it is wrong. On page 11 in my book, here is a table that shows 365 days per year, 66 on leap year, and compared to 360 days a year. As you can see, it takes only 18 years to be an entire season off. At the end of the 18th year, the 360-day calendar would be September 30th, 2017. And God had said that He laid out the universe to keep time of the seasons and the years. This graph is from page 15 of my book. I explain how unique the Hebrew calendar is in its two cycles, the short cycle and its long cycle of 247 years, which I will show next. This information is very important because it proves that there is only one 7-year period in the next 152 years that the 7-year tribulation will even work on God's calendar. I say 152 years because that is all that I have tested. It is possible that it could be the only 7-year period ever. So taking a look at the graph, I show the pattern of number of months that repeat in a 19-year cycle. There are 4 sections in here of a 19-year cycle. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you go down this side that shows the 19 years, I show you that the pattern is 12, 12, 13, 12, 12, 13, 12, 13, 12, 12, 13, 12, 12, 13, 12, 12, 13, 12, 13. And again, that is the number of months in each year. And that pattern repeats over and over and over. However, if you go to the next column, which shows the number of days in each year, you can follow that across and see that the pattern is not the same. This year is 383, this one is 385, this one is 384, and again 385. Now the reason I'm bringing that to your attention is you could assume that the 7-year pattern would repeat itself in every 19-year cycle. But this is why it does not, because the number of days don't line up. Now this is the 247-year cycles. I couldn't quite fit a complete 3 247-year cycles, but I put enough on here that you can see that this is where the pattern does repeat itself. In 5529 here you can see 385 days, 353, 354, 385, and 355. And in 5776, you have it again, 385, 353, 354, 385, 355. And then 247 years later, again in 6023, we have 385, 353, 354, 385, and 355. So what I am saying here is that it is possible the pattern could repeat in 247 years, but as you will learn in the book, it also has to line up with the Christian calendar, which would be even harder to do. On this graph, I block up the 7-year periods that meet the basic criteria, as you can see here. I have highlighted the only 7-year period that fulfills all the criteria. What I am saying is, in order to fulfill all 14 prophetic end-time verses that I use in my book, there is only one 7-year period that works in the next 152 years. Now here I have blocked out 7 years. It fits the criteria of the pattern of 1312, 1312, 12, 1312. Now I've discovered that that's the only possible pattern that works. Otherwise there are either too many or not enough days between the holy days if you would try to start on any other 13-month year. And the reason you have to start on a 13-month year is because there has to be 7 months between Sukkot and Passover, and that will be described later on. And it's also described very, very thoroughly in my book. So here is the key pattern: 13, 12, 13, 12, 12, 13, 12. And I have that beginning in 2021 and ending in 2028. About 1600 years ago, Hillel II developed a formula to calculate when the new moons would be, which is how the Bible tells us to start new months and new years. This is a graph of Hillel's calendar calculation results compared to the projected new moons by the NASA website. Now, as you can see here, this column here is the 5782, the year on the Hebrew calendar, which is 2021 to 2022 on the Christian calendar. And it's September 7th is Tishri 1 on the Hillel calendar. And in this column, what I am showing here is if it says 1 day later, that's how far off Hillel was. When it says right on, he's using the formula from 1600 years ago, and he is right on in year 2021. So he is fairly accurate in his work of the formula that he used. And you see here, right on, right on, right on, and then here 1 day later, 2 days later. So the formula has worked very, very well. And a moment ago I told you that that 247-year pattern also has to line up a special way with the Christian calendar. So what I am demonstrating on these 2 pages here is again 4 19-year cycles, and what I'm showing you is the biblical holy days, which are always the same day. Rosh Hashanah is always 1 Tishri, Hanukkah is always 25 Kislev, Passover always 15 Nisan, Tisha B'Av always 9 Av. So Rosh Hashanah is October 4th in this year, September 22nd in this year, 10 September, 30 September, 19th, 8th, 26th, 15th, October 5th, the 22nd again, the 12th, October 1st, and so on. I have 2 pages of this to show you just how much it really can slide around. There is a 30-day slide that it can be, and here is the second page. Again, 30-day slide. Rosh Hashanah, October 2nd, September 21st, 11 September, 30 September, 18 September, 7 September. And you can pause the video and keep looking and be surprised at how much it does actually move around. In my book, I even have a satellite photo of a possible location for the protected wilderness, which fits many descriptions given in the passages of the Bible. As you can see here, this is Jordan, this is Israel, the West Bank here, and the Gaza Strip here. Now I have the same picture again in which I did a little penciling on. And as you can see, that little protrusion of land that's in the Dead Sea almost looks like an eagle head. So I penciled in a little bit of some wings here, and this could be the protected wilderness under the eagle's wings, because this area is part of the promised land, which will be given back to Israel after the first end-time war, which I describe thoroughly in my book. And here is the timeline graph for the 7-year tribulation beginning in 5782 on the Hillel calendar, 2021 on the Christian calendar. And on here I show the at the bottom here, the 14 verses that I was talking about before that I use to lay out the time, the different amounts of time on the graph. And what I'm talking about for different amounts of time is one of the verses state 2300 days. Another verse states 5 months of locusts. I have that on here. Another verse states 42 months of the Antichrist rule, or 3 years and a part of a year in another verse. The greater Exodus is 42 months. The witnesses testify for 1260 days. The people hide in the protected wilderness that I just showed you a photo of for 1260 days, or 3.5 years. 1335 days in another verse. Blessed is he who waits and arrives to the 1335th day. 1290 days, the daily sacrifices end. The abomination of desolation set up until the temple is cleansed. And I will thoroughly describe all of these verses throughout the book. On the very next page, I give you calculations for the tribulation beginning in 5782, 2021, ending in 5789 or 2028. These line up right with the verses. They're numbered on the graph so that you can come to this next page and look up each and every calculation, and I show you exactly how I came up with the perfect amount of days. For example, here is the 1260 days the witnesses testify. I show you what it is on the Hebrew calendar. It's 21 Heshvan 5782 to 12 Nisan 5785. On the Christian calendar, it's the 27th of October 2021 daylight to the 9th of April 2025 sunset. And that is all thoroughly explained in the book. Here is where I show you from October 27th to December 31st is 65 days, and then years 22 to 24 is 1096 days, and from January 1st to April 9th, when the prophecy ends, is 99 days. Those three numbers add up to exactly 1260 days. I do this with every single calculation. Here is 13 coincides on the graph to the 2300 days to the start of the temple sacrifices, the end of the sacrifices, which is the beginning of the cleansing. I give you the dates. It's 14 to 15 Nisan, which is that first night of Passover. The lamb is killed on the 14th. The meal is eaten on the 15th. All of that is explained in the book, and that's in 5782. It goes through 9 Ab of 5788. And on the Christian calendar, 15 April 2022 to the 1st of August 2028 in the daylight. So again, from 15 April to the 31st of December in 22 is 260. The years of 23 to 27 is 5 years. Only one of those years has a leap day, so that's what this plus 1 is, and that is 1826 days. And then 1st of January to the 1st of August 2028, when the prophecy ends on the Christian calendar, is 214 more days, for a total of 2,300 days exactly. I will scroll up so you can see the rest of the calculations. At the bottom there is the array that my calculations access to get the total number of days. Now those same calculations that I just showed you, on this page is I show the significance of the chart is to show whether the 14 prophetic numeric verses, which are specifically about the 7-year tribulation, can fit in particular 7-year periods. This one is the summary. This is the one that begins in 5782, so it is the one that works. I'm showing you this page because on the next pages where I show you 40 years of calculations, I do not spell out these questions like this because it would take me 40 pages to demonstrate it to you. So in order to narrow it down to 10 per page, I summarize these questions. So I will show you that in just a moment, but basically the prophecy says, is there exactly 7 complete solar years? And plus 0 means it's exactly right. Is there 7 months between Sukkot and Passover? Yes. Is there 40 days between 10 Tishri and 20 Heshvan? Yes. 42 months of the greater Exodus between 21 Heshvan and 30 Adar? Yes. And so on. 1260 days for the witnessing. Plus 0 means that, yep, it works out perfect. Yes, yes, yes means it works out perfect. And then the plus zeros also mean that it works out perfect. Now you will understand what I mean as I step through these next pages. Here is page 86, and this is Hebrew year 5775. 76, 77, 78, 79. So there's 5 years across in each one, and these are the shortened questions here, and these are the answers to those questions. So for example, this one is 32 days off. The 7 months do not work. The 40 days work, but the 42 months don't work, and the 1260 days is 31 days off, and so forth. Everywhere you see a no or plus anything but 0, it does not work. So you can see that here on this column too. And then here is 5782, the year which I blew up, which everything works perfectly. Now I'm just going to step through the next pages so that if you want to examine them more thoroughly, you can pause the video and look them over. Again, 29 days off to the negative. 28 days plus, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, and minus 2. There's a no there, and there's a plus 2 and a minus 2. So 5790 comes close, but it just does not quite work. The next page. And the next page. And then I'll quick flash back to that summary page so you can see what I'm talking about. These are the same 14 prophetic verses here that I shortened. And then I give a brief explanation here to try to clear up any questions that you might have. I designed graphs of the Jubilee years since creation according to the Book of Jubilees and the Book of Enoch, using the current Hebrew Hillel calendar. I show these graphs because I quote some verses from these books, and I want you to be able to cross-check my work. So as you can see, I have divided this into Jubilees, which are 49-year periods, going down, and then across I just divided it into the weeks of each period because that's the way they are described in the Book of Jubilees. So week 1 would be the first 7 years and then the second 7 years. Week 3 is the third set, week 4 is the fourth set, and so forth across. And I have 2 pages of that because I wanted to cover all the time periods that I talk about when I talk about Jubilee years. The second one, right here, part 2, is Jubilee year 61, and it goes from 2941 2989. Again, another 49 years. And then when you roll down to the bottom, you get to the present time. So the 118th Jubilee starts in 5734 through 5782. And if you recall, 5782 is the year that I show that the 7-year tribulation starts, and that would be the Sabbath year of that year. In other words, every 7th year is the Sabbath year. All of that is explained in my book. Now, the 7 scenes on these 2 pages I have dubbed as Throne Scene Minis. In Chapter 9, I have extracted 7 throne room scenes from the book of Revelation and put them in chronological order to demonstrate that more and more people are added to heaven as time passes during the 7-year tribulation. They also point out when Jesus leaves the throne room to gather more believers, like during the rapture and at the end of the 7 years, the last gathering before the millennial kingdom begins. As you can see, this is scene 1. God, the 24 elders, the 4 beasts, and the Lamb are in this scene. Jesus leaves and then returns. I explain this in my book. Scene 2, God, the 24 elders, the 4 beasts, the Lamb, and the 144,000 are added. In scene 3, God, 24 elders, 144,000, and the Lamb and the 4 beasts have left to rescue the survivors of the Great Tribulation, popularly known as the Rapture. In scene 4, there's God, the 24 elders, the 4 beasts, the Lamb, all the angels, and a great multitude. It is the 144,000 plus survivors of the rescued from the Great Tribulation. And in scene 5, we have God, the 24 elders that sing the Song of the Lamb, 4 beasts, the 144,000 who are singing the Song of Moses, and the survivors rescued from the Great Tribulation. All of the angels, specifically 7, are singled out to perform the wrath. Then in scene 6 is God, 24 elders, 4 beasts, all the angels, the Lamb, and finally, all believers who have ever existed on the earth. In scene 7, we see heaven with God, the 24 elders, the 4 beasts, and millions of angels. On earth is the Lamb and all believers who are there for the 1,000-year millennial reign of Christ. Here is another satellite photo that I found on Google Earth of the face of Jesus in the mountains of the Promised Land. He seems to be looking directly at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, and he is blowing a shofar, a horn that is described on the pages of the Old Testament. This is an untouched photo, and this is the photo that I lightly sketched with a pencil what I could see. Here you can see a man's face. There's eyebrows, eyes, the bridge of the nose, the mustache, the beard, and as you can see, it's blowing towards the west. So there is a strong east wind blowing his hair. The hair on his head looks to be tied back, and then there are a little bit of his hair on the sides here blowing forward. Now this is the outline of the shofar that I was talking about. It's a short horn, not the long curly one. And that's what I saw in the mountains. This is the Sea of Galilee here, and down here at the bottom is the Dead Sea. Now again, I'm going to switch back to the photo that is untouched. And now can you see where I saw the eyes, the mustache, the beard blowing in the wind, and the shofar is a little bit harder to see. I kind of had to look at that pretty good to pick that out, but there's the end of it, and it comes down to the lips. See there? And now again, switching back to the photo where I did pencil it in so you can see it a little better. And as you can see, it looks like the eyes are looking straight over here, and this is where Jerusalem is, because this is the fence that goes around the West Bank, which ends, as you know, right near the Temple Mount. So this is where the Temple Mount is in Israel. And I just wanted to mention again that I mentioned a little earlier that this is all here part of the promised land that Israel will get back. So this face is actually in the promised land that is described in the Bible. Now these are pictures of the face of Jesus. This one is a very common picture that I had seen numerous places during my childhood. I always wondered how they knew what Jesus looked like. A few years ago, I heard about the Shroud of Turin, and I did some research on it. That is how I discovered where they got the idea of what he looks like. This is a negative of the head area of the shroud, which is a piece of linen cloth that they believe was wrapped around Christ after the crucifixion. I explain that thoroughly in my book, but as you can see, if his face wasn't all battered and bruised, it would look similar to this face here. So that's where they got the idea of what Jesus looked like. And this is the last scene I am going to show you from my book. It is a map of Jacob's journey in which he went up to Rebekah's brother Laban to get a wife. He went up here around Haran and back down when he came back home several years later. Now this is Galilee up here, and this is the Dead Sea down here. Now if you recall where the picture of or the image of Jesus's face was in the mountains, it was about right here. So let's flip back there quick so I can show that to you. Here is Galilee right here, and the Dead Sea down here. So the face is right where I told you it was. So Jacob's journey actually went up and around the face and came back, and he stopped here right under the chin to wrestle with the angel of God right here near Penuel. And Jacob was left alone, and there he wrestled a man with him until the break of day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, as he wrestled with him. And he said, "Let me go, for the day breaketh." And he said, "I will not let thee go unless you bless me." And that's when they named him Israel. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And he passed over Penuel. The sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Just a coincidence? You can find my site at estherofisrael.wix.com/secretsrevealed. When you get there, you will see the front and back cover of my book on the home page. My author's inspiration. If you want to order a book, you can click there. If you want to see my biography, click there. Or if you want to contact me, you can click here. If you're going to order a book from outside of the United States, you need to contact me and tell me what country you are in so that I can calculate your postage. Now at the bottom of that home page is the information on how to order a book or watch for free on YouTube. You can send a money order or cashier's check, no personal checks please, for $25 for a printed copy if you live inside the United States. $1.47 for a PD file if you live anywhere. You send either amount of money to Brenda Ness, P.O. Box 31 205 in El Paso, Texas 79931. You must include an address label or your name and complete address printed on an index card for a printed copy. I am going to use that as your mailing label, so you must send me the proper address in order to get your book. Include your email address only for a PDF file. I don't need your address. Or you can watch on YouTube for free by clicking on the icon below. I will not be processing any refunds because you can watch it for as long as you want to on YouTube for free. So don't order a copy until you're ready. Right here is that icon I was telling you about that you can click on. When you click on that, you will go to my YouTube site where you can find my entire book recorded chapter by chapter. If you start at the bottom, you can start with the cover and the intro of the book, the cover and the intro. All right, thanks for watching and hope to see you on my site. Thank you. May God bless you today and every day.